Hi, my name is Bethany, and today we are going to conclude our mini-series on Autism Speaks. So I will have parts 1 and 2 linked in the description below to this little mini-series. It is very imperative that you watch those before you watch this. So let's just get right into it. After what seems like the same old, 2015 comes and rocks the entire foundation of Autism Speaks.
At the end of 2015, Bob Wright steps down, Suzanne steps back, Rob Ring, Chief of Science, resigns, and Liz Feld, president of the organization at the time, announces plans to leave. After these changes, Autism Speaks adds Stephen Shore and Valerie Paradis, two openly autistic people, to the board of directors. This is a huge step, as if perhaps they might just be listening to the voices of actually autistic people. Former Autism Speaks member John Elder Robinson gives his thoughts on the change, saying, "It's possible that a new day is about to dawn for the largest and most controversial autism organization. For the first time, they have put actual autistic people in positions of power. They may take more positive steps when the top management is replaced. Time will tell. I certainly hope the organization can change its focus to one that is more constructive and less demeaning to autistics. I hope we've seen the last of the ugly missives like 'I am autism,' Suzanne Wright's offensive 2013 editorials, and the suggestion that autistic people are somehow missing. We're not. They've got a powerful PR machine. Maybe they can use it to say the right things for a change. It's harder to raise money when there are no villains and demons, but it can be done. Will they rise to this challenge or fall back on the old ways? I'm not an insider, so I have no special knowledge, but I have some concerns about the board and some big donors. In the past, a significant amount of Autism Speaks funding came from people with anti-vaccine agendas and followers of fringe or discredited science. How much influence do those people hold today? I don't know, but it worries me in light of their history. It also concerns me that the volunteer base is so heavily dominated by parents. That's really what the group is, autism parents. Can they embrace actual autistics to truly begin to speak for the community? There are a few autistic volunteers there now, and that's a good sign.
And that's something that I think was definitely perfectly put into words. That Autism Speaks is actually about the parents and the families of the autistic people, not the autistic people themselves, while marketing themselves as being for the autistic.
As for Stephen Shore, in an interview, he seemed pretty optimistic about his appointment to the board at Autism Speaks. He says, "After 10 years of telling us it's time to listen, Autism Speaks now visibly listening to people on the autism spectrum is a very good sign. With the stepping down of Bob Wright as board chair, Liz Feld as president, and other resignations, Autism Speaks is in a period of transition. Like with music, transitions in organization and people is where the most potential for growth often occurs. I look forward to meeting the challenge of working with Autism Speaks to improve lives of all people on the autism spectrum." After ending 2015 with a lot of transition, 2016 continues further into change. More change in leadership occurs, with Angela Geiger becoming the new president and CEO of Autism Speaks. Along with this comes a change in the mission statement, which gets rid of cure language for the first time. It now reads, "Autism Speaks is dedicated to promoting solutions across the spectrum and throughout the lifespan for the needs of individuals with autism and their families through advocacy and support, increasing understanding and acceptance of autism spectrum disorder, and advancing research into causes and better interventions for autism spectrum disorder and related conditions. Autism Speaks enhances lives today and is accelerating a spectrum of solutions for tomorrow." While this sounds like a positive step to many, Max Sparrow states their concern in a blog post saying, "You want to study the causes of autism? You are dedicated to promoting solutions related to finding the causes of autism? If you find out what causes autism, what solution are you planning to implement? Why do I keep hearing the word final every time I think about your solutions for the causes of autism? This is why I do not trust your shiny new mission statement. This is every bit as much entrenched in the cure mentality as your old mission statement. This is a piercing dog whistle for prenatal testing and abortion. This is why I read your new mission statement and I still see a huge organization draining all the money from local communities. Money that could have helped us, our families, our schools, our vocational aspirations, our future, and using that money to research how to kill us before we are born. This is why I say you have not changed a darn thing. You have slapped a fresh coat of paint on the same terrifying eugenics agenda you've always had, Autism Speaks. You only took the word cure out of your mission statement. You did not remove the hatred of our existence. You might have fooled some people, but you aren't fooling me. When asked about his thoughts on the change of the mission statement, John Elder Robinson said, "Well, I think it's a good step. It's a step that was asked of them 5 years ago, and I think they need to do a lot more." Those are the words, but who directs the action? Angela Gager speaks about Autism Speaks in an interview with Denver Frederick and says they started realizing autism is more than one solid thing, a spectrum, and started listening to the actual voices of autism. She emphasizes that it's not autism, it's autisms. The rest of what she says seems to me that her focus is about the organization itself, not necessarily autism, but I guess perhaps the president and CEO should be focused on those things as it is their job. She knows that Autism Speaks was running like a startup without long-term planning because they thought they would get together, get a cure, and go, and that's not reality. In addition, Suzanne Wright loses her battle with pancreatic cancer and passes away. It looks like Autism Speaks may be making a revolutionary turnaround. But then 2017 strikes with accusations of Autism Speaks having ties to a neo-Nazi group called Soldiers of Odin in Canada. This stems from yet another one of those Autism Speaks walks. The group was going to participate in the Autism Speaks walk. The Soldiers of Odin are accused of being a white supremacist neo-Nazi group. After public outcry, it seems they were taken off of the website as a participant after 5 days. Again, I honestly think this is simply the mistake of the coordinator in not researching properly. To their credit, on the surface, they just look like a biker group. Considering Autism Speaks took them off the page, I highly doubt they're on good terms. In 2018, Autism Speaks acknowledges that maybe not meeting the criteria for being autistic isn't the only optimal outcome in a blog post titled, "Autism and Optimal Outcomes, Is It Time to Refine Our Thinking?" The article says, recently mental health researchers Elizabeth Costello and Barbara Maughan proposed redefining optimal outcome as the best possible outcome based on each child's personal characteristics and available supports. We find this as a much more suitable concept for developing autism services and setting goals for each child, teen, or adult. The focus is not on reaching certain milestones related to their typical peers. Rather, it's on progress against personal goals such as social and community engagement and any emotional, cognitive, moral, or physical aspirations. Most importantly, we need to include the person with autism and his or her family in the conversation on identifying important and meaningful outcomes.
Well, it is kind of annoying that it took until 2018 for them to propose an idea that many had been advocating for a long time. It is good to see this kind of idea put on Autism Speaks and really in the realm of autism research in general.
Now we're in current year 2019. Their current GuideStar rating is okay, but only has 2 stars on how they handle their finances. This remains a place where Autism Speaks can vastly improve.
Now, a little side note here, I am not able to find Valerie Paradis on the board of directors page for Autism Speaks, which is weird. I don't see any news where she stepped down. I do see an article of hers that's still hosted on the site, so I don't really know what's going on there. I don't know if that's just an oversight. Maybe they didn't get a bio from her or something. But it's kind of weird that she's not there. I just thought that was important to note. As of my research stage, I have yet to see her on the board of directors page. I think that to date, Autism Speaks is trying to actually listen to the voices of autism and embrace them. The problem is that they are trying to turn a very large vessel that has been fueled by fear and by the sorrow of parents who have been convinced that their child has been swallowed up by this evil thing called autism. They have gotten rid of the cure language, but you can tell that it is still difficult for them to see autism as something other than something bad that happened to the child. I do have hope for Autism Speaks. I mean, it does seem like they are trying to do good things, and they've definitely taken steps to include actually autistic people in meaningful ways as being part of the board of directors. I also did take a look at their strategic plans from the past and the ones from now until 2020, and there is a clear shift away from creating a sense of urgency, aka fear-mongering, so that's good. But we really are in a place of time will tell. At this point, for the parents who have already been sold that idea that, you know, this is an awful, unforeseen, unprovoked medical disaster that has happened to you and your family, or who have been convinced that your child has been stolen away into the darkness, or that you have somehow lost them, I want to tell you right now that you have not lost your child. Your child is still right here. Autistic people we're right here. We're not gone, we're not missing. We're not swallowed by some evil thing called autism. It's just a part of who we are and how we think. It's just part of how we see the world. Some of us cannot say out loud with our mouth that we love you. Some of us cannot, without, you know, prompting, kiss you and hug you. But I want you to know that we do love you. So many autistics have trouble saying those words, even though they do speak, because they just thought you knew. They just thought you inherently understood how much they love you. Why would they have to put a word to it? So understand that even if your child or loved one cannot say the words out loud, I love you, they do love you. And they are there. They're not missing. They're not in the darkness. They are right before you. You do not have to fix them. You do not have to adjust them. You do not have to hope and pray that someday they'll be magically different. They are who they are, and I highly encourage you to start taking steps toward learning who they are instead of trying to change who they are, instead of trying to make their behaviors pleasing to you or pleasing to the public. Find out who your child is. To Autism Speaks, I encourage you to continue to make positive changes. I really do appreciate your attempts at including the autistic community. With media being so prevalent, why not reach out to creators like us who are your everyday person, supposedly that lifespan that you want to reach. We have a voice and we are willing to talk. We want to give you insight that some person who doesn't think like we do cannot give you. I know there will probably still be flaws. I mean, as John Elder Robinson pointed out, there's probably some people with power and money and certain odd agendas lurking and lingering about. But I hope that those people and their dirty money will be weeded out by those people who truly do want to help those who are on the spectrum. We are not a disease to be eradicated. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much for being here, for making it through this series. From this point onward, I'm just going to be sharing my personal opinions, so if you're not interested in that, feel free to click off. If you are interested in that, feel free to stick around. So I think most of the problem with Autism Speaks really lies in their co-founders and the people who backed them with money who have non-scientifically supported agendas, as well as their budgeting issues. I personally wouldn't give my money to this organization. They push the government so hard to give support and money and, you know, programs and all these things to autistic people and their families. And while that's great, I feel like maybe they should put their own money where their mouth is, because they haven't even managed to give a double-digit percentage of their total budget to actually providing meaningful help to autistics and their families. There are local charities that do so much more with much, much less in their communities than Autism Speaks does. However, Autism Speaks is a big name, and so people will give to that because they know that, oh, it's been around, blah, 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 it must be good, let's just give our money to that. With them already being this well-known organization, I really think they could spare some of that money they raise to actually directly helping and supporting families more than maybe their toolkits and some of their paper stuff that they put out that are supposed to be helpful. As for funding research into autism, I don't think that's wrong. I think that it's great if you can learn more about autism, about how it affects people. Honestly, for many people who are more level 3, more considered low functioning, this whole functioning label thing, if there was a way to alleviate some of the struggles that they run into in such a way that is much more difficult, I'm sure that that would be a nice option if it could help with many of these comorbid conditions, that there are a plethora of very difficult conditions that tend to come along with autism. That kind of research could be very valuable in helping the autistic community. However, I don't know enough about science to know if that would be possible. With autism being a different wiring of the brain, would it be even possible for something to cause someone to go from level 3 autism to level 2 autism or level 1 autism? Is that possible? Would they be giving up part of who they are to be less restricted by behaviors and more capable of casual conversation? I'm wary about prenatal screenings. Personally, I highly doubt that they would be used as a tool to help people be more prepared for having an autistic child. I really feel like they would more use that as an attempt to prevent neurodiverse children from entering this world at all. I also think it's fair to keep a good eye on anyone who's still a part of Autism Speaks that was there before 2016. The reason I say that is that these people were happily going along with the rights agenda at the time. So to me, that makes them a little suspicious. They may have been a part of moving that particular agenda. And there are 2 specific individuals that I wouldn't be sad if they got replaced by someone who was a little more interested in the new changes coming to Autism Speaks. Now, I will be going into different videos on specific things, and that'll probably be one of them. Another very obvious way to improve is to offer better and more thorough training to your walk event managers to avoid appearing to support some seriously awful groups like the Judge Rotenberg Center or people who have ties to white supremacy. Other than that, I do think a lot of the hate launched at Autism Speaks is deserved for the pre-2016 group. Time is going to tell whether or not the reputation that Autism Speaks has because of its founding all the way up to 2016 is deserved or not. I think that they are trying to make positive changes, but they really need to stay the course. If they step back into old patterns, we are waiting and we are watching, and we will call you out. You don't get to claim to speak for autism and make money off of well-meaning and ignorant people without us checking you. Either way, thank you so much for watching this video series. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you found it informative, and I hope that it gave you the information necessary for you to make an informed decision and opinion concerning Autism Speaks. Now, there are a lot of things that I ran into that I would like to make separate videos on, whether it is about things that happened or are happening with Autism Speaks, as well as some offshoot things. In fact, an organization I discovered that makes me angrier than Autism Speaks does, that claims to help autistic people, other than the Judge Rotenberg Center, because that place makes me extremely angry, but one that I don't think is given enough spotlight as being not the greatest organization, just because I had never ever heard of them, and they don't seem to have a whole lot of press. So just some things that I'd like to look into, maybe some people on the board we might want to keep our eyes on in the future, etc. Just some things to keep up on the autism world, and some more further researchy thingamajigs that I just we don't need to go into in this series. So I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you'll be looking forward to my normal videos as well as some of my more research, expose, informative videos, yeah, in the future. So if you enjoy my kind of content, I highly suggest that you hit that subscribe button. I try to upload every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time to this channel with autism related content. If you enjoyed this video, of course, give it a like. That would be great. And I hope that you're having a wonderful week, and see me in my next video.